Hello, everyone out there in the interwebs. It is I, Ginger. I am back, and it is good to be back. And I'm going to bring my boom down so you can hear me better. It. I am back. Finally, it is the first 9 p.m. Saturday broadcast in a very, very long time, and it feels good to actually be back on the normal schedule again. Work has finally calmed down since mid-August, and it looks like I'm going to be on a normal schedule at least for a few weeks. So we'll see how long that goes. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy ourselves as much as possible. And as Mr. Clavin puts it, laugh our way through the fall of the Republic.
Amen to that.
And to help us with that, we have my friend Pastor G here to sit, and we're going to discuss some of the latest goings on in the election, and we might get into a little bit of the COVID stupidity as well, because as we know, that is never freaking ending. And don't worry, we'll talk some facts, we'll talk some rampant speculation, and it's going to be a good time for everybody.
Oh.
So, Greg,
Amen to that.
Greg, so welcome. It's been a while since you've been on, and oh my gosh, I forgot to mention. Greg is also, for those who don't know, we have also officially expanded Fighting the Void into a full network, and Greg here is part of the team. He has got his own show, which is just simply Pastor G. It is a lot of his sermons, which are excellent, and a little bit of cultural commentary here and there, and whatever else he decides to cook up in the meantime.
Oh yeah, it's like one big skillet. I throw a whole bunch of different things in there.
Well, that's the beauty of doing these little independent YouTube shows. We don't have to have a brand per se. We can just do whatever we want. And if that means we grow a little slower, you know what? I'm okay with it, because I don't want to be a brand.
Well, that and the more growth means more responsibility, means signing out a lot more autographs and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, when you start to get recognized in the street and people are constantly hassling you. I mean, it just wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good for you to have women chasing you down the street in Hillsdale.
No, definitely not. No, there's so many. That's wrong on so many levels, honestly.
Yes, it is.
Oh man, gosh.
Yeah, it would just be very improper.
No, and I think pastors deal with enough scandals as it is. So.
Oh, good heavens, yes.
Yeah, I don't need any more drama on my shoulders.
I'm Catholic. Have you seen stuff from my Pope in the last couple of years?
Oh gosh, I feel so bad for you,
dude. It's like buddy. You're making it hard. It's really hard to talk to anybody about. You should be Catholic. We have a Pope.
No.
Yeah, not that guy though.
No, I'm thinking. I feel bad about your whole Pope situation. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. The only thing he's been really hardcore on is abortion, and other than that, he's a off kilter. Put it that way. It's like
way to be diplomatic there.
Yeah, there you go. Diplomatic. That's what I'm gonna be. But that actually isn't the point of this. Although I could easily spend a whole show talking about our Holy Father, and anyway,
moving on
quickly, quickly and uncomfortably. So there have been some serious developments in the election shenanigans since the last show, certainly that I did, and even in the last couple of days, there have been some serious, just stuff just flying around like crazy. I don't know how serious any of it is. I don't know how truthful any of it is, because by golly, we live in 2020, and unless it hits you in the face, it's hard to believe it's there.
Yeah.
So
it's like the never-ending election.
Yeah. So let's start off with probably the most solid thing, which is what happened in Pennsylvania, I think just yesterday. So are you up to speed on that?
Yes, I actually just watched a couple videos about that.
Okay, all right. Bring the audience up to speed.
Well, basically, they went and talked to the lawmakers over there, the Trump team, the Trump lawyers did. And they are looking to try to halt, or actually look to try to rescind the certification. So from what I remember, I guess Pennsylvania did certify, but they want to take it back for irregularities and such.
I'm not sure that they actually fully officially certified.
Right.
Because they kind of apparently the process isn't complete.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's something fishy in the fact that they only certified the presidential election. They didn't certify everything down ballot.
Right.
Only the presidential one, which, to my knowledge, has never been done before.
Right. And you see, that's the thing. How much, we're getting so much information thrown at us from so many different levels that you don't know what's true. I'm trying to follow up the Trump team and Sidney Powell both, because I believe that they divided and conquered. I can go more into that later because there's a lot of turmoil around that. But as far as the Trump team, now it seems like I just watched a video. Jenna Ellis talked to OAN about Pennsylvania and what they did there, and now they're going after Arizona, doing the same exact thing. Instead of trying to go to the courts, which they tried, and it seems like they're hitting brick walls, now they're going to the lawmakers and hoping the lawmakers can start kind of pushing their weight around to try to investigate these ballots and find out what's legal and what's not.
I think there's something to that. Although I suspect, I don't know, I suspect that a lot of these cases that have been getting thrown out so quickly, it could be, I guess there's three possible options as to why. One, they just genuinely don't have enough there for the judges to take it seriously, and they're well within their rights to toss it out because that's the right thing to do in the case. That's obviously the most benign, less society-destroying way to look at it.
That's right.
The next is that they're essentially, orange man bad judges and going, I don't care what you bring, I'm throwing it out. That's also possible.
Right.
The other is that Trump team has enough, but they're intentionally withholding it and filing these lawsuits just literally to get them rejected so that they can get to SCOTUS.
Right.
Whereas
go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say basically get enough appeals to run it all the way up to the Supreme Court and let them decide what's going on.
Yep. Because otherwise they might find themselves in a situation where the Democrats essentially try to, as Ellis herself put it, run out the clock. And, before you know it, we're in the middle of January and we're just getting to SCOTUS with like a week to go before the inauguration.
Right.
So,
which I have a feeling is probably going to come down to that.
It's probably going to get pretty close. I think it likely, given all of the legal challenges and everything, that this runs past the previous record of getting certified on, I believe it was December 13th, with the Bush v. Gore election way back in the day when I was still a squid.
Yeah.
Which I remember that one.
2000, I was 20 at that time. So I remember that. That was what was fun. That was the first election I ever voted on.
Yeah, back when we were young men.
Yep. Those were the days.
That they were.
I know. And I did.
Times.
We had a paper ballot too. I remember going to it was like a town hall and just going over there and voting there. And you actually did pull a lever and all that kind of stuff. It was like the old fashioned voting ballots. It was awesome.
Oh, hey, Red's in the chat. And she just called us old dinosaurs. Shut up, Red.
Oh, jeez. I say I didn't see her pop up. I'm gonna have to look on this. I purposely popped it up in case she showed up. Yep, there she is.
Yep.
Go figure.
Yep. Normally I reserve the shut ups for Juan, but since he's not here.
Yeah, I can leave it up to Red. Yep, she's cracking up.
That's good. All right.
Well, yeah, we are on. Well, yeah. If you ask my kids, yeah, we're old.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely. So okay, so we've got that going on. They're blocking. Essentially, it looks like the judge upheld the injunction to block the official certification, and I do believe, and that same judge, he went on to say that they can also essentially move forward with the whole case regarding the mail-in ballots being unconstitutional.
Right.
Sounds like he didn't say. I don't think he came right out and said they were, but I think it essentially laid the groundwork for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court,
right,
to likely declare the mail-in ballots as unconstitutional. Now, if that happens, obviously there's two different options that we're going with, which would be it probably flips the state for Trump, or they go, okay, this just disenfranchised so many voters, or potential voters, we should say.
Yeah.
Because given the sheer number of mail-in ballots and the fact that just as we were getting ready to go live, I saw there was a Tim Pool video saying somewhere, I didn't get a chance to look into it at all, but some places there were like over 700% more votes turned in than there were registered voters. Right. I don't know if that was Pennsylvania or not. It's just an example of the kinds of shenanigans that we're looking at here. And in any case, it could just void Pennsylvania. Not give the 20 electoral votes to Trump, but still take them away from Biden. Which, to make this a non-issue, all you got to do is you don't have to necessarily get Trump to 270. You got to get Biden below 270. And that, I'm pretty sure, would force a 12th Amendment contingent election in which the state delegations wind up deciding the president, which, hello, President Trump, for your second term. Because
basically.
their Republicans control it, and they would be insane.
Oh, yeah.
If they went with Biden, because their constituents will openly revolt. I don't necessarily mean shooting in the streets, but y'all ain't getting reelected. It ain't happening. Ever.
Well, I just want to say, Red chimed in on the chat saying Judge denied it at the Supreme Court in her state. I think she did share an article before we went live. And I think they did shoot it down.
Well, you know what? Now that you mentioned it, I think I did see just snippets of that. Well, there you go. Okay, fine. So it is then on to SCOTUS, obviously.
Right.
There's nowhere left to go.
Right.
At least I don't think there's anywhere left to go unless... No, wait, they already went to the appeals court at the federal level and everything. So it is on to SCOTUS now.
Yeah. Which it could be good news. And I mean, with the Supreme Court the way it's at, and what they just did right before Thanksgiving, which was amazing to wake up to.
Slapping Cuomo down. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a little bit. Absolutely. Because if there's any fun to be had is in slapping around Cuomo. Anyone named Cuomo, really, I'm okay with them getting slapped around.
Yes.
Metaphorically speaking, they're
yes. Let's make this very clear. This is all metaphorical, not physical.
We are not advocating violence.
No.
I just want to see them publicly pantsed on TV.
Yes.
And that's what I want to see. But even that, I mean metaphorically.
Again, metaphorically, because we don't really want to see that literally. Please, don't soundbite us. You're going to anyway if you don't like
That's a good point. Really, nobody really wants to know if Cuomo is sporting boxers or briefs. No one really wants to know. Anyway.
However, Red will. Red just said in the chat that she will, and I can see her doing that. She will literally.
Red, I'll bring the ladder.
Oh, Margot too. I guess both of them can do that. That's fine because they're women. Who would actually go against women on this one?
Honestly, I would pity the poor fool. I would pity the fool that dares go against either Red or Margot. Frankly,
let him go down. and I would be so thrilled to watch. Trust me.
Oh yeah, I really would. Honestly, I do kind of advocate for that. Anyway.
Yes. Anyway. But not us.
Anyway, but no, not me, because that'd be bad because I'm white and male and scary.
I know. We're the scourge of the country, apparently, at least according to the woke left.
Well, I mean, dude, look at you. You're a neo-Nazi skinhead.
Oh, I know. I mean, how about that, huh?
I'm clearly a neo-Nazi because I'm going for the Viking look, and all Vikings are Nazis.
Yes, I am part of the superior race.
That sounded more like Sprocket than Nazi, but whatever.
You know,
Shout
you
out to
take
our
what
roots.
you can get. I don't do good impressions, but apparently the Sprocket thing goes really fun with the kids. I show up and I tell them I am Hans. Hello, my name is Hans. I like to talk.
See that you do well.
Yeah. But the superior race.
It's funny. I was actually just mentioning the Sprockets to my kids because I don't know. My kids were goofing around, and one of my daughters like did what was basically a Sprocket walk, and I'm like, I saw that before like 20 years ago. But anyway,
yes, I know. It's pretty funny because like I'm Irish and Scottish descent. I can't do Irish or Scottish accents, but I can do a German one. I have no German in me at all, and yet here I am. You know, it's like hello, I am Hans. I like a fun on the autobahn, and it's just it's awful. But oh well. I mean, you know, I take what you can get, I suppose.
Margo doesn't
entertain people with it.
Poor Margo doesn't know what a sprocket is. Just
kids
go watch old SNL clips. You'll figure it out. Don't worry. All right.
Yeah. Kids.
So okay. We've got that latest development that
right.
Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, you know what, you should have done this before the election, which, to be fair, some people were saying that if you really thought this was a problem, you should have brought it before the election. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's two reasons why that criticism only has a little bit, it doesn't have as much validity as one might think. One, because as Alice herself pointed out, they would have just said, well, there's no injury here. What are you complaining about? Nothing bad has happened. You know, there's no one here that's been harmed at all. So why am I wasting my time looking at this? That's what the judges would have said. They would have said, get out of here with that. But you know, let me know when you've actually had something bad happen.
Mm-hmm.
She's absolutely right. I'm sure that's exactly what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of it is, what were the Democrats doing before the election? They were they were jamming up the airwaves with claims that Trump was trying to suppress the vote.
Exactly.
That he was, you know, literally stealing mailboxes off the streets, sending his hordes of henchmen, little frogmen, running about to the world with loading little mailboxes up on top of flatbed trucks and driving them away to be held hostage until after the election. And where are the conspiracy theory nut jobs? Give me a freaking break.
What? And what's funny is that 2 years ago they were the left were screaming about the whole Dominion voting thing and how that can easily be hacked.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean,
here we are.
Yeah, I mean they spent, obviously they spent 4 years going, Russia.
Exactly.
And you know, everywhere there's Russians and they're all master computer hackers. And I'm pretty sure they can hack into, like, they can get off the boat. They can get off the boat in Maine and hack into a voting machine in freaking Santa Barbara with nothing more than an old Palm Pilot and a paperclip. That's basically what they were doing for the last 4 years.
And now this year was the most secure election possible.
Absolutely. Ever. As my 5-year-old would say, this means not really.
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly.
So they spent all the time doing that. And then right before the election, of course, they were going off with this whole Trump's suppressing the vote. Trump's trying to sabotage the postal service so that they can't get the mail-in ballots through. And all of that, saying they were worried about direct election interference, ballot stuffing, the machines getting hacked, possible Russian or Chinese interference again, saying we might not know the results for months after the election, yada, yada. They spent months saying all of that crap. And then all of a sudden after the election, and it apparently goes their way, they're all like, the most secure election ever. Don't even look over there. There's no man behind the curtain, you fool!
The hypocrisy knows no bounds with
no,
these guys.
No, it's like, you know what? You know who remembers all of that? Do you remember them saying all that? You know who remembers Pepperidge Farm? You know what? Screw Pepperidge Farms. I remember.
We all do, and so do 73 million Americans.
Amen. Hallelujah. Because this is all, it's all highly irregular.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what it gets me, is because they were mentioning, again, the whole Russia thing, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
They were talking about how the elections were possibly, there was something up with it until what we saw in the election, which was just the weirdest election I've ever seen in my life. The
Just
most
a just a bit.
suspicious election I've ever seen in my life. I went to
Mhm.
bed thinking, because I didn't stay up for the whole thing. I had to work the next day.
No one
Um,
no one stayed up for the whole thing.
yeah, no one stayed up
Theoretically.
except like Trump pretty much had it, and
Yeah.
it was 2016 all over again, basically. And
Yeah.
then I woke up and I'm like, okay, really? What the
Yep.
heck's going on here? Why is all this like hasn't been decided? Election's over.
Yeah. I mean, especially like Georgia and North Carolina. They were at
Right.
like 90+% for hours.
Exactly.
Hours.
And
Like,
I will
don't give me that crap.
and I will say Fox ticked me off. That's what we were watching.
Arizona.
I'm like, why
Yeah.
did you call Arizona? This doesn't make any sense at all.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of fishy things happening, and I knew it was going to be off because of the mail-in ballots and all that kind of stuff. But then waking up the next day, I'm like, something's not right. This is going to be a fight. I can already see it.
Yeah, I like that whole, as Red points out in the chat, the whole stopping the count. Like, what? No, you wimps. You slam a friggin' monster and you keep counting.
That's this is what we do every single election. How come all of a sudden they're stopping?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's never been a close election with people pulling all-nighters before. Give me a flipping break here. And, just without spending too much time on all of that, apparently now, getting back to more recent developments, Powell finally filed her lawsuit.
Yes.
That finally happened, and Lynn Wood filed one in Georgia, and I guess Powell filed another one here in Michigan.
Yes.
And I haven't had the time to seriously look into them, but it essentially says in more detail, goes into more detail about what she has been saying about Dominion, and that these systems can be hacked, that they have been hacked, that there's a history of them not just being hacked, but actually being intentionally programmed to flip elections, whether it was under the Dominion banner or under the Smartmatic banner,
right,
what have you.
All the above.
Because apparently, and first of all, just as an aside, this is where people like Shapiro piss me off.
Right.
Because he'll go, well, he's like, well, City Powell claims this and this and this, that Dominion and Smartmatic are essentially the same company and everything. And he's like, but Dominion says they had no relationship with Smartmatic, so there you go. I'm like, what? Okay, no, that's not the way this works, Ben.
No.
You don't go up to somebody that you suspect of murder and go, did you commit that murder? No. Well, I guess we're done here.
Yeah, that's what
that's not how this works.
That's what it kind of looked like. Yeah, and I agree with you 100% about that. I mean, I'm looking at whether Margot's making a comment about that because she's a Daily Wire groupie.
But... I know. But honestly, Ben does piss me off with stuff like that because he is.
Yeah.
He always applies his very considerable intellectual capacity to analyzing the official data.
Right.
But he never applies any of that impressive intellect to questioning the official story ever.
Yes.
Like he never questions whatever the official sources say.
This is what I don't understand about that, because he's got, like what you just pointed out, he can crunch numbers, he can do all that. This is why I've been paying more attention to Steve Deace, because that's what he does. And from the start, he said that this whole thing is fishy. The polls were fishy, and he's a data analyst. And he didn't vote for Trump at the first election. He voted for him in the second. And that's one of the other reasons why I like him, is because he gives kind of like the I would say the voice of reason. Because I don't want to be like, I'm a huge Trump supporter, but I don't hang on every word Trump says.
No, and nor should anyone.
No one should. I definitely not advocating for that. Everybody has their flaws, but what I like about Steve, he brings balance to that with data, and he analyzes it. He points out his flaws, and he lifts up his triumphs. Steve Dace has been baffled, but not surprised. I mean, he's baffled, but he's not like completely dumbfounded because he saw this coming a while ago.
Well, and one of the reasons that, and anyone watching, why you should be paying attention to Steve Dace, and he's over at Blaze.
Yeah.
You should be paying attention to him because he was one of the first people in right-wing media to start seriously questioning all the COVID information we were getting.
Yep.
He started questioning it very early on, like way back in March. He was already going, this crap is not adding up.
Right.
He was one of the first ones to get Scott Atlas on.
Yes.
Who is now a couple of months. Was it a couple months now? Well,
yeah.
Whatever. Is now on the Trump COVID team, and has been out there, kind of tearing it up and slapping the media around, including our beloved Governor Reich Marshall Whitmer.
Yes.
Yes. and his analysis was correct. He started questioning, why is it's like he started questioning the math thing. And he starts bringing up all of this data and pointing out, it's like, okay, well, if it works so great, why is Hong Kong on round 3 of lockdowns?
Right.
And so on and so forth. He was the first, one of the first, if not the first, to start picking up on the fact that Sweden basically wasn't doing any particular sort of lockdown.
Right.
Not an official government one anyway. Whatever local areas did, I do not know. That's not the point. The point is that that as time went by, it's clear that Sweden had the better strategy.
Exactly.
Even if they had just as many people die or hospitalized or whatever, they had the same amount of people without completely destroying their society.
Exactly.
Guess what? Guess who wins there?
Well, because it was a good comparison, in my opinion, that he compared Sweden with Michigan.
To Michigan, right? Yeah,
same population, roughly the same climate. I think Sweden's a little bit more on the cooler side than we are.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but still, it is. But yet, they have far less deaths and far less hospitalizations.
Yep.
And their economy did not take a hit over this.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly, literally all of that. So they started questioning all of that, and he's been thoroughly vindicated on the COVID stuff. And he also started looking into the polls leading up to the election.
Right.
He was like, "There's just no way. There's just no way that these polls are remotely accurate, with Trump doing so well. Polling relatively well with blacks and Hispanics." But polling supposedly so poorly with white evangelicals is like that. There's just no way. There's just no way this is accurate. And he's very careful too. He's not somebody who takes a couple of snippets of data and then runs off to some wild conclusion.
Right.
No, he's careful. He's like, okay, I'm looking at all this. All I'm saying is that this polling doesn't add up.
No.
And that doesn't mean that Trump wins. That doesn't mean that Trump wins. But he doesn't lose with numbers like this.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. And he's like, even comparing the polling data to like just the cultural environment, where you've got Biden supposedly up by double digits, yet the environment that we're in, as the NBA starts going with far left talking points, the NBA viewership goes through the frigging floor.
Exactly.
Same with the NFL. And the NFL learned the lesson quickly. They started to back off some of their messaging. Those two things, Biden up by double digits, with Kamala Harris as his freaking running mate.
Exactly.
And a massive rejection of this far left political messaging did not add up. And Dace was on top of that early on.
Exactly.
Again, before anybody else. And, now again, he was very quickly on top of all the shenanigans with the election.
Yeah.
And again, he's a data analyst. He's looking at the numbers and going, no, statistically speaking, you don't get these kind of state flips. You don't get these, and he did a whole long episode
Mm-hmm.
on especially the way the mail-in voting works. It's very technical. It's very wonky, so you got to pay attention to it.
Right.
You can't necessarily do what I normally do and listen to these things at double speed. You got to slow it down at least 1.5 and pay attention, because he goes into a lot of detail and you got to stick with it. But essentially, it's the way the distribution works. It's working one way, and then all of a sudden it changes.
Exactly. And and the thing about Steve made a point, and I'm probably going to paraphrase this, but he said that in order for you to believe that Biden won the election, you either have to believe that a 78-year-old man from Delaware, who is basically almost a dementia patient, got more votes than Barack Obama did in 2008, or people hated Trump so much that they came in mass just to vote him out, which doesn't make any sense at all still, only because Trump got 10 million more votes than he did in 2016. Right. Either of those don't add up. You have to convince me that Biden actually got that amount. I mean, he got more of the black vote than Barack Obama did.
No. He got more people voting for him, not more of the black vote, because Trump actually did remarkably well among blacks. He actually cut into that.
He did cut into that.
He cut significantly into that, except as Crowder has pointed out, basically Detroit, Philadelphia, and Atlanta,
right?
And maybe maybe Milwaukee too.
But from what I see in the numbers, those places still outranked. Biden got better votes from the black population than Barack Obama did, even in those places. From what I saw,
well, like I say, in those places, but only those places,
right?
Only those particular places. And here's another fishy thing that everyone should remember from election night. Before they did the whole stopping counting thing, it was remarked that Trump was doing remarkably well in Philadelphia and Wayne County.
Exactly.
Which is where Detroit is in Michigan. Really? Really? I do not believe this. This is not. And then all of a sudden, they get their truckloads of mail-in ballots in, and they're all for Biden. Now, or almost all, like to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, statistically impossible for it to be Biden.
Yeah,
and not even just that, but it wasn't even. It was to Biden, nobody else.
Yeah, and that of course is another one of the things that so many cases there's apparently no down ballots.
Exactly,
and I don't just mean like they voted for Biden at the top and then Republican all the way down, which is exactly what the rest of the election results would suggest, since the Republicans actually picked up seats in the House, which no one was expecting.
Yeah,
and it looks like currently they're going to hold the Senate, although we'll see what happens with Georgia. Looks like the Republicans in Georgia are paving the way for the Democrats to screw them,
right?
By not demanding any sort of amendment to the way that they're conducting elections down there, which is just
it's going to be the same exact thing again. They have not done anything different. Georgia will not be anything different. And that's it makes no sense to me at all why they're not going after, especially now. Georgia apparently is the pivot for the Senate right now. And so why wouldn't you be going after them harder?
You should be. Well, again, maybe that's where Powell and Wood's lawsuits will come in.
Right.
And as Powell said, blow up the state. I mean, because she's making not just accusations about the Dominion voting software, not just accusations about voting irregularities. She's flat out saying that Brian Kemp was in on it.
Right.
Which, of course,
that's scary.
It is scary. And a lot of people balked at that, and I understand why. Because he was a big Trump supporter. However, never underestimate the power of a wounded ego.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, whoops.
Yeah, that was my mic.
As we know, Trump also might have had a little wounded ego action in his reactions to Kemp back in the summer. Because if you recall, when Trump was early on, starting like back in May and June, starting to advocate for governors to reopen their states and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Kemp was like, you know what, that's a great idea. I'm gonna reopen Georgia. And then like the next day, Trump was like, yeah, but not you. Like, Trump, what were you doing, man? It's like this guy literally followed through on the advice you were just giving, and now you're dunking on him for it? That makes no sense to me.
That didn't make any sense to me either.
And it is things like that do make me question whether or not there really is a plan here.
Mm-hmm.
That Trump is, to be diplomatic, mercurial.
Right.
And
well, here's one of the things that, because you brought up Sidney Powell and all that. Here's a theory of mine from what I've seen. How, like, you've seen that the Trump legal team are distancing themselves from Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell is a highly respected lawyer. Yes. And she has a huge resume and a very successful one. Mm-hmm. I remember watching Crowder, and his lawyer Bill Richmond said that she is highly respected in that circle.
I believe she's never lost.
Right. And the thing that I'm seeing is that Sidney Powell is going after Georgia and now Michigan, whereas Jenna Ellis is going after Pennsylvania and Arizona. I'm thinking that they divided and conquered. They're distancing themselves so they don't go public with a lot of the stuff they have, just to keep everything under the radar as much as possible. Let the media gawk at them, let Twitterverse gawk at them or whatever, and just go in and just like release the Kraken when they're not expecting it. I mean, to use the term that she's been using, that she seems to be very popular for. I, of course, am skeptical. I'm going to be skeptical. But at the same time, I'm like, part of me is like, okay, well, the biggest thing I pray for is not for Trump to win, because I even though I do want him to win, I want exposure for whoever is trying to screw with the election. Yeah. Complete, utter exposure. Bring to light anything that's corrupt and just attack it and destroy it. So whether Biden wins or not, I want to be able to have faith in my vote. That is what's important to me.
Right. And that is one of the biggest reasons why all this does need to go forward.
Yeah.
And also, well, actually, first, before we get there, because that's more of wrap-up stuff. With Powell's lawsuit, I noticed Matthew Hammond, who's often in the chat, he sent me some stuff from. Let me look at. I think I accidentally closed down that window because it was on Chrome, and those Chrome dinguses keep always giving me new popping up advertisements now all of a sudden, left and right. And so anyway, let me see if I can bring this up on my phone.
Yeah, Marco in the chat, she's like, I live in Illinois and my vote never mattered. And I just wrote, Illinois sucks because of Chicago. And I feel bad for her because, I mean, I think your vote does matter, Marco. But Chicago basically decides what's going on in that state, and sometimes even Springfield too, but mainly Chicago.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, it was from Joseph A. Camp. Matthew Hammond sent me a short thread from that guy, and he's basically saying that his team had hacked a server. It had hacked a server run by what was it? Eric Coomer, I believe is his name. The big time Dominion exec and Antifa supporter, as it turns out.
Oh, yeah. Strange coincidence.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
And basically saying that a lot of the stuff that they saw in those servers is in the Powell lawsuit. Now, he didn't go into any detail, which I would have really appreciated, because I mean, initially I'm like, holy shit, this is significant.
Right.
Then, on all honesty, my critical faculties kicked in. I was like, so what were you doing with this information? It kind of says they were doing some posting about it. And then they got shut down because they were posting about it. But okay, what else were you doing with it? Were you just sitting on it? Or another option is they actually said, you know what? Maybe that's where Powell got her. Maybe who knows? Maybe that's the source of Powell's Kraken.
Right. It's very possible. I think Powell was trying to be discreet. She's just trying to tell the public, okay, I got something, just just back off or let me do my job, because the
Yeah,
public.
I'm not gonna say that, because if that's what she wanted, she would have kept her mouth shut.
I think so. I don't know. The way I've seen it is that I think she's trying to, like, she doesn't want people to lose confidence. Although I guess if what she's got to bring, if it makes a difference, it's not going to matter whether she's got the court of public opinion on her side or not. I mean, she presents the facts and they get, and it actually makes a difference and starts turning things around. I guess it really doesn't matter, but I don't know. It does not seem, something just doesn't seem right that she'd be like saying all these things if she didn't really have something to bring to the table. It just, she's risking what, disbarment, or at the very least, public shaming to a point where she might face lawsuits in the future. I don't know.
Well, I would say Powell presents us with the old trilemma. She's, liar, lunatic, or Kraken releaser. For those who might be unfamiliar, the trilemma was proposed by C.S. Lewis and is typically applied to Jesus. He was either a liar, a lunatic, or Lord.
That's it. Once you said that, that's immediately where I went my head on. Yep. It's like, okay, you're talking about Jesus now.
Yep. So she is either, running a very ill-conceived grift,
right?
Because I mean, if it turns out she has nothing,
mm-hmm.
and I don't mean that she has to win. It just turns out that she really has nothing,
right?
Her credibility is completely shot.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the most unsuccessful grift ever.
Exactly.
Or she's got her own version of Trump derangement syndrome and has just lost her ever-loving mind, which a whole lot of previously seemingly sane people have lost their mind. Or
exactly.
Previously sane people have at least got, lost one or two marbles, if not all of them. I would put Eric Erickson in that category.
Right.
He's lost a couple. He's still got a lot, but lost a couple. But if this is Powell, she's just, if the lunatic thing applies, she's lost all of her marbles. She's just
exactly.
Gone. Or she has what she says she has, and she is Powell, destroyer of worlds.
Man, I hope it's the latter. I really do. I mean, I know what the odds are, but you never know. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about it.
I think there is some reason here, and a lot of people also dismiss Wood because he's very public about his feelings on things, but don't forget, he's the guy who got Nick Sandmann, who made Nick Sandmann a multimillionaire.
Yeah, part owner of CNN.
Yes, he's got he got that kid hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements from CNN and the Washington Post. So
good.
Don't dismiss Lin Wood, either.
I'm not going to dismiss them. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, you guys, time is ticking here. So
time is definitely ticking. Absolutely.
You better be delivering.
We absolutely need them to deliver. And I think, like I said, they're waiting to drop the bomb on SCOTUS.
Right.
That's what I think the play has been. We're going to get there, and then, then we'll open up Pandora's box. And I think that gets into what we can start to wrap this up with is speculation on what happens after, because it is, put it this way, if they have half of what they say, and I don't even mean just Powell, I mean Ellis and Giuliani too, because if they can prove that there were enough fraudulent, enough questionable votes, enough questionable practices to either flip or throw out the entire election, this is Pandora's box.
Right.
So, what happens when Pandora's box is opened?
So basically, if what you're saying is they have something and the election gets flipped, what happens after that?
Yep.
Riots. First thing that comes to my mind, there's going to be riots. The media is going to lose their ever-loving mind. We may see it may be riots on an epic proportion, like we're talking every major city. And it's probably going to get really, really ugly for a while. However, here's the thing. I think should that happen, I think Trump is going to kick it into full gear. He's not going to sit around and hope the states do what they're supposed to do. I think he's going to go and bring the guard in. He's going to just go full on. He's like, look, I got nothing to lose now. So I'm going to come in and take care of business. And he's going to be called a dictator. He's going to be called everything under the sun because he did that. But it's going to send a message saying, we need law and order now. And I'm not going to take it anymore. I don't care if he's basically going to tell the states, you need to get control of your people or I will. Yep. And it's going to be basically 2016 times 10. I think it's just, they're going to find something. They're going to try to get him out of office. They're going to try to impeach him again. Although I don't think they may have enough people in the House to do it at this point in time. They keep seats are dropping left and right on the Democrats. So I don't know. I don't know if they have enough, even though they still have a majority to do that, but they're going to find ways. They're going to try to get him out again, or heaven forbid, they're going to try to assassinate him.
That's not outside the realm of possibility. It gets directly into the follow-up question is, okay, see, what you just described is what happens if, say, the Ellis and Giuliani version carries through.
Right.
If essentially Trump winds up winning because of their case, which is essentially that there were widespread voter irregularities, essentially coordinated by the Democrat establishment. Put it that way. However, Powell's case alleges far more than that. Powell's case essentially alleges global Illuminati level conspiracy.
Right.
Again, if she has the Kraken, this is way worse. This will be more than just riots.
Right.
I mean, there will be riots. Don't you doubt that. This will be way worse than that, because if she has the Kraken, if she can, and these are all big ifs. These are all big ifs. This is the speculation portion that I warned you about at the beginning. Okay, guys. Right. So again, everything I'm saying is ifs on top of thens on top of maybes. Okay, so that's understood. Self-awareness is present. All right. This is not the tinfoil hat being on. This is saying, if the big if happens, what happens from that? Okay, so again, big if. She has it. It does expose a literal global conspiracy of elites. And it will definitely be the same people behind all this Great Reset talk. How do they respond? Because this is more than just, typical power-hungry politicians, or people who want their favorite politician in so they can get the laws passed that they want. This is, we want to, reset the global political and economic stage, and we will use any means we can to do it. And they will be, and again, if she has the goods, they are exposed, and they will probably be exposed by name, or at least we'll be able to connect the dots to figure out who some of them are.
Right.
That's pitched. That isn't just there's riots from Antifa and BLM and the usual suspects. That's that's potential pitchfork and torches time.
Right.
That's like that's the peasants rise up
Mhm.
and and kick the corrupt prince out of the tower.
Right.
That's that level.
Mhm.
Um, and then how do those elites respond? Because they've got their islands and I mean, they literally have their own islands.
Well,
with
Sidney
their
Powell didn't kill herself. That's all I'm going to say. Sidney Powell didn't kill herself. If she exposes them.
Right. I mean, they're literally on. They literally have, private islands with Bond villain mansions on them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look at Epstein.
Yeah,
that was a Bond villain compound. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that's Epstein was what came to my mind. Like the same people that were involved with that are probably involved with all the other stuff that we're seeing, all the corruption.
Oh yeah,
and so yeah, what I was talking about was basically the sad part is the best case scenario, like the election gets overturned by Ellis and Giuliani, but if Powell does her thing, you're right, it will be much worse. As far as how worse, I don't know. Like it's because you're talking about almost like Hydra, their tentacles are in deep in so many different governments worldwide. We're talking, I'm talking like, we're talking satanic levels of influence and beyond anything physical, we're talking spiritual. I fully believe it's almost like basically setting the stage for, the Antichrist in many cases.
Oh yeah. We don't fight against men. We fight against principalities and powers here, buddy.
Right. Now, whether it's ushering in the end times, because that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Which I get drawn into a lot, and I just say, well, I don't know. And not even Jesus knew at the time when he was in his ministry. So I'm not going to sit here and predict anything. However, I will say that what we're seeing transpire is epic level proportions of satanic involvement in our governments worldwide. And I can definitely see, like, if anybody has any exposure to them, it could cause a lot of chaos. They like to stay in the shadows and then convince you that they're the good guys.
However, if Powell opens up Pandora's box and I don't know that they'll be able to stay in the shadows anymore.
Yeah.
And then they're, I don't know. I mean, it could just be like, you know what? Fine. Mask off, gloves off, let's go. And and I could see that. It could just be like, well, okay, fine. We tried to be nice when we were taking you over. Now we're gonna not be nice anymore. And what I would say is you're gonna get there would be some sort of economic retaliation. And there would probably, and we all know that. I don't want to invoke he who shall not be named, but there's a certain he who shall not be named, who is rather famous for screwing around with the British currency, and is rather proud of his achievements in that regard.
Right.
And who literally aided and abetted Nazis and in persecuting his own people. But anyway.
Which, again, I mean, I believe is a tool. I believe is a complete tool for somebody way bigger than he ever will be.
That's
and
this
is a theory. Again, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not prophesying. I'm not doing any of that. I am just saying from what I see, and this is only what we know. But we see a lot, and now with social media, now with I can know what's going on across the world in 2 minutes or less. I mean, that's how intertwined this world is now because of media. And from what I'm seeing, it's ugly. It's really, really ugly.
Yeah. I think you would possibly get an assassination attempt on Trump.
Exactly. I mean, because it's so funny. I never would have imagined Trump being anywhere near this kind of level. I mean, I I didn't support him in the primaries.
Yep.
I thought I didn't really think less of him. I thought, well, he's just a New York businessman, a douchebag, if you will. It's like, whatever.
Oh, definitely a douchebag. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, when he ran for president, I'm like, oh, really? Are you kidding? Jeez. And then he wipes him out in the primary. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I'm gonna have to support Trump because I'm definitely not supporting Hillary. So it's like, really, I have to support Trump? And I'm like, okay, pull the lever for him. Ooh. And what could happen? Well, I was pleasantly surprised. And then him slapping the media around was just like the highlight of the whole president. He's the ultimate troll. I mean, I've never been more entertained in politics in my life.
I know. At the very least, it's been a highly entertaining, if at times highly frustrating 4 years.
But at the same time, though, I mean, when I watched Ben Shapiro's video and Steve Deace's video regarding how they used to be not Trump supporters and then now they became, Trump has made some major accomplishments that I would love to have him back in the president's seat again.
Oh, yeah.
To continue on. And especially since he doesn't have to worry about re-election, he can just go and do more things he can do and make our country great again, technically. I'm not MAGA to where I hang over every word he says, but I definitely am impressed with his leadership, despite his Twitter and whatever.
Well, and especially given that he has had basically everything against him. Obviously, the Democrats against him. Obviously, the media against him. Hollywood. Wall Street in many cases.
Many Republicans.
A lot of the Republicans, including, obviously the deep state, the bureaucracy that just is always there, who has openly stated that they have undermined him in his agenda in many cases. Rex Tillerson was publicly doing it,
right?
During his brief time as Secretary of State. Thankfully, brief time, but not brief enough.
Right, exactly.
And then the COVID thing happens. And did I mention that a significant portion of the churches are against him as well? Exactly. So he has had literally almost every single institution in this country against him and his agenda. The fact that he's managed to get anything done is shocking. I mean, to be perfectly honest, he hasn't gotten nearly everything done that he promised. But I think he's at least tried to do most of it.
I think he's done most. Well, I wouldn't say most, but he's done a lot of what he's done. But he's done more of what he promised than, frankly, any politician in living memory. Exactly. At least for me. Exactly.
Which is a remarkably low bar.
I was gonna say, I was born when Carter was president, but I don't remember any of that. I remember Reagan.
Right.
But, and going that far, Reagan to me was probably, compared to Trump as far as policy and conservative policy, was probably second best to Trump. He was the closest.
Actually, actually that's shockingly true. Is this one of those things like, what? How is that true? How can that possibly be true? And yet it is.
He's more conservative in his policies than any other conservative prior to him. I guess Reagan probably would be the closest. I don't want to dismantle Reagan's memory because I loved Reagan.
No.
But if we compare, but Reagan didn't have the issues that Trump has now. He was hated, but not, and he didn't have social media constantly badgering.
He wasn't regularly called a Nazi.
No, he was not. In fact, the Democrats and the Republicans actually got along a lot better during that time compared to now. We are way more divided than what Reagan was dealing with.
Oh, yeah, much more. But, as far as, now what happens, though, if, let's say that it doesn't go Trump's way. Let's say Biden actually is inaugurated come January.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then?
I'd imagine that Biden or whoever's pulling his puppet strings is going to try to dismantle through executive orders pretty much whatever Trump has enacted, or
He's already said he was going to do that.
Yeah, he's already he's going to try to push through as much as he possibly can. But the thing is, it's also going to depend on the Senate, because they lost so many seats in the House now. There's two hypothetical reasons. One, if the Senate goes the Republican way, then basically there's going to be gridlock. He's not going to be able to do as much.
Not possibly. As much. Although we've given so much power to the executive branch,
right?
That he will, of course, push it farther. He will get more done than you want.
Right, because there's going to be the squishes in the Republican Party that reaching out across the aisle, which I cannot stand hearing from them. It's like, really, give me a break. You guys are lefties. Just say it. Just tell everybody. Just drop the R.
Well, we know what we're talking. You know who we're talking about. Mostly, it's Romney, Murkowski, and Collins. Although most of them are squishes to one degree or another.
Personally, like it was really sad because I when I was watching the election, I was like, when I see Collins, because she was up for re-election, part of me was actually, I don't root for Democrats, but part of me was thinking, like, how awesome would it be if a Democrat kicked your butt? just because we might as well have a Democrat in there, the way you vote and stuff like that. Yeah. But unfortunately, she won. But I don't, and that's weird. I don't root for Democrats, but this is one of the times where it's just like, I would really like you to be knocked down, only for a Republican to eventually take you out, a couple years from now.
Yep. But hopefully we get to hold on to those 2 seats in Georgia.
I'm hoping.
In which case we won't have to worry about the squishes so much, because also, at least when it comes to anything radical, we can probably count on Joe Manchin in West Virginia to side with the Republicans.
Right.
We can probably rely on that. And then also that'll give us enough margin. We don't have to worry about Kamala coming in being a tiebreaker.
Right. That's what I'm concerned about. If the Senate goes the Republican way, I foresee more gridlock in many cases. Biden won't be able to get as much done as he possibly wants, but still be able to accomplish some of the things through executive order, which that he may be pushed to do that. But then the other part of it, if he wins the Senate and Democrats take control of that, then it's an open floodgate in some cases, because the Democrats now control the House still.
Yeah.
Not by much, but they still do.
Well, and regardless of who winds up with the Senate, here's the thing. This is where Mark started to make about public perception, the court of public opinion actually matters. One is to go back a little bit to how, actually, I think the court of public opinion will affect how SCOTUS rules. It shouldn't, but it probably will, because a lot of them are people with their finger in the wind, at least a little bit. And they will go with where they will at least be influenced by whatever direction public opinion is. And if public opinion is that, look, there was fraud all over the place, and they find that there is fraud of some kind, then they will uphold it. Then they will be like, you know what? There was fraud. This election is bunk to whatever degree. And then, it's off to the races on that road. However, if public perception is, no, there was not fraud, there definitely was not, then even if they find evidence of it, they may well go ahead and leave the election alone. Don't say, and nobody should say that isn't possible, because for crying out loud, have you paid attention to any of John Roberts' rulings the last few years? The last, honestly, ever since Obamacare first showed up before SCOTUS?
Right.
I mean, the guy, he's a piece of work, let me tell you.
Oh, I cannot stand Roberts. He is such an awful squish.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's worse than a squish. I think he's a traitor at this point.
Yeah. I
don't necessarily mean traitor in the sense if he should be, strung up traitor.
Traitor to the conservative constitutionalist, if you will, a constitutionalist movement.
Yeah, to the constitutionalist idea, I don't know, philosophy.
Philosophy, yeah.
I think it's fair to say he's a traitor to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, public opinion does matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it will affect the way SCOTUS rules to one degree or another. It'll at least be an influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that as far as SCOTUS is concerned, that I agree with Steve Dacey talked about that they will at least rule that there was fraud or there was something fishy happening. At least the conservative end will. Whether it becomes majority, I'm not sure. But they wouldn't overturn the election.
Yep.
In that case, I mean that's more of a possibility. However, in order for John Roberts to do that, he's got to get one of the conservative people on his side, and the closest he could possibly get would be Kavanaugh. But even then, that's kind of up in the air because Kavanaugh was even though he's kind of a squish, he's still more of a constitutionalist. And on top of that, the Democrats really made a spectacle of his life. And even though it shouldn't be personal, I would say still, I think that's going to have an influence to a point where he might not jump in with Roberts on that.
I'd be shocked if it didn't have at least some influence. Now,
no.
Now when it comes out after, now let's just say SCOTUS winds up ruling and is essentially in favor of Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the media is going to run off, it's going to be off to the races. They will, and frankly half the country, will consider the entire right utterly discredited.
Mm-hmm.
There will, the public perception of at least half the country, which is the half of the country with all the institutions,
right,
will be that the right cannot be taken seriously, and that's at best.
Right.
No credibility whatsoever. And they will act, whether they do or not, they will act as though they have an utter mandate to rush through everything that they possibly can,
mm-hmm.
which means they will run through a lot more executive orders than anybody wants to imagine. Right. And even if they're challenged in court, again, the right will now be considered as being utterly without credibility. And that will affect how at least some of these judges wind up ruling. It will be open season.
Right.
They will come in with a giant commie steamroller
mm-hmm.
and flatten it. I probably not. You know, it's not going to go instantly to door-to-door gun confiscation, but
no,
but they will run through a lot more than, like, say, just the Shapiros of the world are willing to admit.
Mm-hmm.
It will be worse than they think it is, or at least than they say it is. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be enough that it winds up, frankly, pushing us into a corner. Because, you know, I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff that Biden has proposed in terms of gun control legislation, like $200 tax on every gun.
Exactly.
As I understand it, it's not just every gun that you buy afterwards, it's every gun you own.
That's right.
And they're even proposing a $200 tax on freaking high-capacity magazines,
mm-hmm.
which, according to the typical left-wing definition, is basically anything over like 7 or 8 rounds or something, which is basically every magazine for every gun.
Pretty much.
except for subcompacts.
Yeah.
And revolvers. So, let's just say that ain't happening.
No.
There is no way that people will stand for that.
No.
Because I guarantee you, everybody with an AR has got at least 5 30-round mags sitting around.
Exactly.
You know, I promise you that.
Yeah, I know quite a few of them who do.
Yep. It's like, you're gonna come and you're gonna tax me, well, $1,200 between the gun and the magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And no. I do believe. Are you familiar with the Boston Tea Party?
Yeah.
Because that's about to happen.
Right.
And a lot more than that if you try to pull in that nonsense. Now, I don't think they're really serious about the tax on the magazines.
No.
I think that's thrown out there more to make it more likely they get the tax on the guns, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm thinking if they can at least tax the guns and then offer buyback programs or something like that to try. I mean, that I can see them doing that.
Yeah.
And doing all that kind of stuff just to try to, as far as the whole Second Amendment thing is concerned. Right. But you're right. I mean, we have potential, should what you just say occur, to possibly go into a civil war.
It's there. If they try to push through some of the stuff they're talking about, and if they're not just if they try, if they're successful in pushing through some of the stuff they're talking about. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I don't see how it doesn't how it doesn't get there.
I mean, Margot's bringing up a good point. She's talking about like pregnancy centers will start to shut down.
Yes, they'll shut them down. She's right. They will shut them down, and they will. I don't think they can force them to perform abortions.
I don't think so. I don't think they could. The one pregnancy center that's by me is publicly funded. Mm-hmm. They don't get any government grants, so they would stay open, providing that people, because they're supported a lot by ministries and a lot of people, and private donations and stuff like that, including us, including myself.
Yep.
And so, they would stay open as an alternative, but but some of the ones that aren't will probably face shutdown or try to be forced.
And I do foresee a world in which they are forced to refer for abortions, to say, well, if you choose this, you can go over here. And I can I can see that happening. And I guess, Margot, the reason why I'm not bringing that up is because we've been fighting the abortion fight for a long time.
Right.
And that is, well, it's a fight that overall we're winning.
I agree.
Actually, the legislative wins have been minor. The cultural wins have overall been not nearly as significant as I would like. But abortion clinics have been closing a lot. In my area, there is one that does dismemberment abortions, and they almost closed down, but law of unintended consequences, others closing down in the area wound up, all of their former business went to this one in Grand Rapids. So that managed, everything else closing down kind of wound up keeping them open. But we keep 40 Days for Life going there twice a year, and I do believe their days are numbered.
Oh yeah, fact, I agree with that.
They're already talking about, when that gets shut down, they're talking about shifting their focus to the Planned Parenthood and Grand Rapids, which doesn't do full on dismemberment abortions, but they do chemical abortions there.
Right.
And so, and also, I'm also speaking in terms of things that are going to trigger massive, more societal disruption and everything.
Right.
And what's going to trigger that? What's going to trigger us to go down the path, truly go down the path of no return?
Right.
Where American society is just done, as we know it.
Where shots are actually fired.
When shots are actually fired. And exactly.
This is the part that I get so nervous about in many cases, just simply because my heart would break for my kids to have to see a war in their own backyard. The fact that they would have to witness or be a part of it. A civil war is not just, it's like you could be fighting your own neighbors, literally.
Yeah, and it is frustrating. I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
I mean, let's be honest. It's possible.
Oh yeah, it's very possible.
There are, honestly, I think there are more scenarios that lead us there right now than there are scenarios that don't.
Right.
It's just a question of how long and exactly what shape it takes. Because again, if Pandora's box is opened, we're looking at, Antifa and BLM / whoever their handlers are, essentially probably trying to bring down the country. But that's when you've got, you know, your pickup trucks full of rednecks and the U.S. military, mostly on the side of right.
Exactly. And they don't realize who they're. This is the side that believes strongly in the Second Amendment, and
right.
I would be more worried about citizens defending themselves with their armaments than the military in many cases. Because here's the thing: someone brought this up on Twitter a while back, and it just made me laugh. I'm like, they're saying, "Oh, so you think you can go up against a tank with your rifle or your handgun?" And they're like, "Well, at least I'm armed." Do I want to be like Venezuela?
I'm not going up against the tank with my AR, you idiot. But guess what? They sleep sometime.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, so you would rather see the because in Venezuela they were running people over with tanks and stuff like that.
Yes, they were.
I would rather have a gun in my hand. At least I have a chance. I mean, there's ways to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they need to think about how much trouble Afghanistan and Iraq have been, how much trouble Vietnam was. We vastly outgunned all of these people, and yet they are a massive pain in the rear end.
Exactly.
Red
just said she needs a pink tank. Now I have this image in my head of Red in a freaking pink tank.
Endorsed.
We endorse.
Really
endorsed. I'd be more worried about Red. I mean, because I don't think Red really needs a tank, to be honest with you.
It's true. The Margot remarking she's never even touched a gun. Margot, if you want, I will. If you're ever up my way, let me know, and I will teach you how to shoot.
Yeah, don't be. Hopefully, you're not afraid of them. Be willing to at least get a handgun, learn how to defend yourself. You live around Chicago, for crying out loud. You need one.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the full extent of all of Illinois' laws and everything. I know it's more onerous than it is in Michigan.
There is. I got my buddy that actually lives not that far from where she lives, and he owns a couple of guns himself. He knows the right channels. I don't remember what all the laws are, but you can own them.
Right.
It's a lot harder to get your hands on.
Right. Yeah.
And
clearly
the suburbs are a lot easier to get your hands on guns than Chicago proper. So, which she lives out in the suburbs, and so does he.
Yep.
So there's a better chance.
And here's the funny thing. People, and this is kind of in response to Margot mentioning she's in a wealthy suburb. So am I. You know what? If I was a bad guy, you know where I would go to be bad? I'd go to the wealthy suburbs.
Exactly.
Because everybody feels safe there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost a no-brainer. Just fortunately, most criminals don't have any brains.
Right.
They tend to stay in their areas where people might be more in the guard. It's also the cops may or may not be around, but the cops also aren't spending a lot of time in the wealthy suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
They'll respond to a call.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you have to get called. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
if I was a bad guy, I know where I would go to be bad.
Yeah, and not in my neighborhood. My neighborhood is a very proud gun-toting neighborhood. You will more than likely you're going to get shot if you try breaking into a home here.
Oh yeah, and this is the difference between like a Michigan suburb and an Illinois suburb.
Right.
A Michigan suburb, you're still going to have a lot of people with guns.
Yes. A lot of hunters in the state.
Exactly. There's a lot of hunters. There's a lot of big 2A people, and everything. And that's a kind of almost everywhere you go, other than the east side of the state.
Right.
There, the criminals have all the guns.
Yeah. There's days where I wish we can just annex Detroit into Canada or something, and just be done with it, because Detroit drags the rest of us.
just take everything from Ann Arbor onto Lake Huron. Just take it.
Literally, they take the state. They take the state down. I think Crowder pointed out, like, our murder rates are high only because of Detroit.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that. I mean, you see it, but not as nearly as much in
Right.
Grand Rapids and even Lansing.
Mhm.
But you get Detroit and Flint are what drives the state's murder rate, through the roof. And it's just those two areas.
Yep. Oh yeah, it really is. But in any case, so I think no matter how this election thing goes down, it's gonna be wild.
Right.
It's a question of when it gets wild and how wild.
Exactly.
And
a lot of ifs now.
There are so many ifs. There's so much uncertainty, and it's hard to predict anything with any sort of certainty. I mean, how many different scenarios have we played out? And
all the sad part is all of them are plausible.
Exactly, they are all plausible, and certain things. It's like I am fairly certain that if I will predict obviously that if Trump winds up winning, Molotovs fly. Absolutely, there's no question about this.
Yeah, it's
Molotovs are going to fly. It's going to be insane.
Right.
Whatever, how long that goes and everything, that's a lot more up in the air.
Part of me, I'm sorry, but part of me would actually, not that I want the cities to burn, but to see the meltdowns on social media from the left after that happens.
I know.
Especially as they've been gloating their butts off on social media with intensity, including my own family. And I would just like to see how they would react if it got turned around. Just grab the popcorn and just watch it fly.
As my spirit animal Dennis Leary once put it, it'll warm the cockles of my heart.
One thing I do enjoy doing, sorry, I'm kind of off the subject there, but what I've been doing on Twitter is I've been going after the COVID, the COVID like fear of people that are fear mongering for COVID. And me and Red have actually been doing this together on Twitter. And I just been pointing out the utter hypocrisy, and it's almost like a contest now between me and her on who's getting blocked more, because I don't put up with it anymore. None of the she, because I'm just
dumb.
I'm so tired of the left, like this one person was putting up like what it takes to put a ventilator in you. It's like, this is what you're going to deal with. Enjoy dying. I mean, just vicious tweets. And I just started saying, well, I'm assuming you're saying the same things to all these people. And I was pointing out the Biden celebrations and George Floyd and all these different things and the celebrations. And, all of a sudden, finally, I got blocked because they don't have an answer to that.
No, they don't. There isn't one.
The hypocrisy just knows no bounds with the left here when it comes to COVID or the election.
Yep. You can't go to church, but by golly, you can film your Hollywood movie.
Yeah, exactly. You can film your Hollywood movie. It doesn't make any. I'm sorry. The whole Newsom thing. Liquor stores and strip clubs can be open, but not churches. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's like you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say that lap dance has a better chance of giving me COVID. Just call me crazy.
No, give me a break.
Well, she's wearing an ass though, so it's cool.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's like, come on, guys, really?
This is the thing that gets me. But it's come to the point. I will say this: Trump has emboldened people like us, particularly. I'm going to speak for myself. I don't want to speak entirely for you, but I've seen it where I am more bolder confronting people now about the hypocrisy on the left, confronting the media crazed. Leftist social media. I'm confronting these people on the basis of, look, you are being hypocritical. You're telling me I can't open my church, but you can definitely have all these leftist protests. You can riot in the streets, and that's okay. You don't hold them to the same accountability as you hold me. I don't think so. And I'm going to point it out to you. And you have no leg to stand on. And yet they're out there fear mongering for COVID. It's like, really, people. Don't you? The lack of self-awareness, especially like people like Newsom talking about like
freaking Newsom-Leany.
Oh, Newsom-Leany he just put out a tweet about supporting small business. You shut them all down. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You have no self-awareness.
No. And I guess LA just put out some order for like everybody in the county to stay the hell home. I'm like
okay.
So glad I don't live in California.
I'm honestly, I'm holding back because there's so many things. The internet's forever, and so there's so many things I could say, but I'm not
Oh, I
going
know.
to
I
because
know. I know.
all I'm saying is that we should never hold back on confronting these people and
No.
showing them how utterly hypocritical they're being, and the thing is, you might not convince them, and I really don't care. It's the people that are on the fence looking down at our conversations on
Right.
Twitter and
Right.
Facebook and Parler or wherever we're at.
The
And they're-
squishy middle. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to want to know, okay, well, what do they have to offer here? What are
Mhm.
they, who's more legit? And they're going to see more and more that we are, if you're on the right, you are
Mhm.
right. If it ain't right, then it's wrong. That's what I tell people. Not because we're superior, not because we're perfect, but if you want to look at facts, this is what we're trying to bring to the table, and you need
Mhm.
to weigh these in, because if you base everything on feelings, you're going to go up and down, and you're going to crash and burn.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm tired of the emotional manipulation, and I agree. I am much more confrontational now than I used to be. I was, I was always the guy that I was the reach across the aisle guy, the reach across the aisle guy. I was the
I was too.
one who would bend over backwards trying to find common ground. Now I kind of don't care anymore, because
No.
I don't see I don't see with a lot. I'm not going to say all. I'm not, but with a lot, I don't see any real attempt to actually try on their end.
No.
And it's not even an honest attempt. I mean, for them, and let's be honest, for us too, to a degree, common ground being a moderate means, frankly, agreeing with us.
Exactly.
I'm at least, I'm at least willing to admit that, no, I don't want to compromise. I want to convince you.
All right.
But I want to convince, and here's where the real difference is. I am willing to, I want to convince you. I don't want to shut you down.
Exactly.
I don't want to censor you. I don't want to cancel you. That's the difference. That's the real difference. The real difference isn't in like one's interested in compromise, one's interested in common ground, and the other isn't. The difference is one is honest about the fact that we're not terribly interested in common ground, but I want to earn you coming over here.
Right.
I want to. I will build the bridge, not so we can stand in the middle, but so you can walk across it.
Exactly.
The other one is like bridges. Well, where's my detonator?
Exactly.
I want to destroy. I want to destroy the bridge.
Exactly.
I don't want to destroy the bridge. I'm going to walk across it, but I'm not going to walk across it. I'm going to go across it with a friggin' tank and destroy your ground.
Exactly.
And it will now be my ground.
It's their idea of compromise is submission. That's what they're talking about.
Yep.
And they're going to emotionally manipulate you as best as they possibly can to achieve that goal. Yep. And to make you, to a point, they'll make you feel guilty for not wanting to be on their side. And I don't buy it anymore. I see right through it. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, look at the facts. Look at what we're presenting to the table. The media is trying to emotionally manipulate you. That's how it works. The people that are the biggest news junkies in my family and my friend circle are the most neurotic and the most TDS, and they have the most TDS in their attitude. Basically anything Trump does is Satan or Hitler or whatever other term they use, and are almost crying at the fact that I support him. And I literally one of my family members started crying over the phone because I was supporting Trump. And I'm like, you don't realize why I support him, and I give him all the facts and all that, but he's so mean and he's so sexist and he does this. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you not do any research at all? Is the only source of information the news? Because the news hates him. If I watch the news and nothing else, I would probably hate him too.
Yeah, and that's just it. It really is true. And the people on the left have been saying this too. We essentially do live. We really do live in two different realities at this point.
Right.
And to a degree, our realities are shaped by whatever media it is that we're listening to. The difference is that,
Mm-hmm.
frankly, the right is aware of the fact that they've got a bias.
Yeah.
You know, that you know what, there might be counterfacts, counterfacts out there, not alternative facts, counterfacts, things that go against that go against whatever narrative it, whatever they seem to contradict the facts that I'm accepting from whatever media it is that I'm getting. We're at least aware of that fact. And some of us even go to the trouble of seeking them out. A lot of times you don't need to, because frankly, too much of our media spends its time reacting against whatever the left is talking about. So
Right.
we usually know what they're talking about. We're usually getting a lot of left media just by watching and paying attention to right-wing media.
Exactly.
Whereas, usually when the left talks about right-wing media, it's those Nazis over there said.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you might get the clip, you might get a quote, but it's probably very out of context. And the
Exactly.
right does that to a degree too. To be fair,
And I know
but again, we're at least aware of it.
Right. I don't want to seem like we're arrogant, like we're right and all that. I know, it's like I joke around, well, if it ain't right, then it's wrong. Well, the truth of the matter is that most people that I know on the right, you and I, people at Fighting the Void and other people, Blaze Media, we're actually trying to report truth. We're trying to show you what we've discovered. And the thing is that we're not trying to emotionally. Now, some of them are, and there's people on the right that do this. But to be honest with you, like, especially if you are religiously driven like us, if we're trying to make our case to the world on why this is truth and what they're saying is false, we are accountable to God, you know? And so for us to try to, if we're trying to manipulate the masses, we're not just embarrassing ourselves, we're embarrassing the Lord. And I don't want to be held accountable. Now, it doesn't mean that we're perfect, but it means that we're held to a higher standard. The right is typically held to a much higher standard. That's why the left has been able to manipulate us, to be honest with you, because, because we're not willing to go for the throat, that we're trying to find as much compromise and trying to love our neighbor as possible. They use that against us. But now,
absolutely.
The problem is that a lot of us on the right, we're having a wrong impression of what it is to be like Jesus, and the left would throw into our face, well, Jesus was compassionate and he didn't judge and all that, which is completely, utterly wrong. I mean, he was compassionate, but he judged. He had every reason to judge. And he told us not to assume, like when it comes to judging people, we don't assume their motives. That's not the kind of judging that we're not supposed to, but we're supposed to judge situations. If you're in a dark alley somewhere and you've got four guys that, are, that look like they're dressed in leather and they got knives in their hands, I'm going to judge probably what's going to happen at this point. I am not going to go down that alley because there is a good possibility these guys are going to mug me. Okay, if they look like thugs, they're going to mug me. So that is the right type of judging. It's the judging of, what their intent is. Like, I can't assume other people's intent. I can see the situation and I can judge it thoroughly. I'm kind of going off into a tangent, but the point I'm trying to make here is that Jesus was very righteous in his actions. And the thing is, for us on the right to sit here and watch our culture become shambles, just to let the left destroy our culture, to promote abortions, to promote promiscuity, and all the vile things we see that. We
got here largely because, well, for a variety of reasons, but one of the contributors is definitely the fact that we had this, we've developed this innate desire to try to be nicer than God. He doesn't judge and all of that. It's like, no. As you point out, Greg, he most certainly does. Even at Jesus' most compassionate, when he steps in to save Mary Magdalene. Right. It wasn't, well, yeah, glad I saved you from those judgmental assholes. Have fun doing your thing. Right. No, it was okay. Yes. Hypocrites. That doesn't give you an excuse. go forth and sin no more, lady.
Exactly.
And
I'm actually going to talk about that tomorrow in my sermon.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Or Zacchaeus, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jesus, of course, because he's God, he knows, okay, this guy's looking for a chance. This guy's looking for a chance to turn his life around.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, come to your place tonight. And, you know, Zacchaeus is all like, awesome. And I got to do some sort of thing. I'm going to, you know, basically pay back everything I owe in like 4 times more.
Right.
You know, everything that I ever stole from somebody, I'm going to give that back and a whole heck of a lot more on top of it. Jesus wasn't like, you know, Jesus wasn't like, oh, you know what, you know, water under the bridge, man. Past is the past. Just, you know, go forward now and do good. No.
Mm-hmm.
Penance, restitution. Yes. He willingly accepted that because he was judging that his life up to that point had been wrong.
Right.
Plain and simple. Right. And he also recognized that Zacchaeus wanted to go forth and sin no more.
Exactly. Notice how he added that go and sin no more. He did that with the woman who committed adultery. It's the same exact thing. It doesn't mean that they're going to not fail, because we all fail because we're human. But he told them, go sin no more. This isn't a license to sin. This is basically he helped them, he healed them, he restored them, and then he gave them instruction. Have you noticed that like when Jesus doing something like that, he heals you or he restores you, and then he gives you instruction. It's not the other way around. He doesn't tell you have to clean yourself up before you get restored. He restores you, he heals you, he shows you mercy, and then he gives you instruction. Now, this is what you do in order for you to live a righteous life. You know, otherwise we'd never be able to attain. If we had to try to become righteous to be healed, we'd never be able to make it. That's impossible for us. That's why we need Jesus. And I like what Margot said. She said, we don't judge souls. That's what I was trying to say. We don't judge souls. You know, that's not our job. You know, but we should judge actions, and the left is just
stop doing that thing. Stop doing that thing.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And
you know, and I don't the thing is that to see the left manipulate Christians, and I see it happen all the time, trying to use Jesus against them, even going so far, you know, if you want to say about the COVID, saying that Jesus would have worn a mask, which is just not only unbiblical, but moronic. You know, that's the kind of stuff they're doing to try to manipulate the Christians into submitting to their ideals. And I'm sorry, but you know what? We're fighting back. We're done. We're done with this stuff.
Oh yeah, I am so sick of the compassionate Christian response. I'm like, oh, give me a flipping break. I am not going along with this nonsense.
No. In fact, I'm ready to toss temple tables. Is what I'm ready to
exactly.
do.
I'm not going along with this BS. No, I'm not.
No,
it's just not happening anymore. We're tired. I mean, granted, there are far too many that are willing to wholeheartedly go along with it. Way too many, but there are definitely a very committed chunk of us that are like, no, I don't know. No. This is wrong, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it isn't. And it's not because it feels uncomfortable on my face. It's because you're dehumanizing people.
Exactly.
You're turning us into faceless little cogs that walk around on the street, and we consume and we work, and that's it. And you're trying to drive us into being little drones that live in our little pods with our recycled crap delivered by other stupid little drones, and it's just not gonna happen. I'm not here for it, and I will fight against that bullcrap until I am blue in the friggin' face. And you know what? I think this is a good spot to start to wrap this up, because this fight that we are in, it is not just physical, it is not just spiritual, it is not just legislative, it is all of these things, and it is all of these things combined. Every single one of them. And this is literally an all hands on deck situation. And what I mean by that is I don't mean that everybody has to be prepared to like take up arms and go storm the Capitol or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. might there become a time when something like that does need to happen? Yes, it's possible. Let's. I'm not saying I want it. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying it's possible. Should that time ever come, God forbid,
right,
there will be people who need to do that,
mm-hmm.
who are willing to do that. We will need those people. We will also
Absolutely.
frankly, we will also need the people like Margot who have never picked up a gun and have no particular interest in doing so.
Exactly.
We will need those people to be backing up everybody else on their knees in prayer.
Exactly.
We will need the fiery rhetoricians like
mm-hmm.
like Red, the people who will go out in the public square and say, no, this is the way it is. It will.
Mm-hmm.
We are in an all hands on deck situation, and we need
yes,
everybody to step up and do whatever your role is.
Exactly.
Whatever it is. I don't know what your role is.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to figure that out. Whatever your role is, you've got to figure that out, and you've got to step up and do it, because this may, we're in a situation, and
we are. This is why we're doing what we're doing right now. We are fighting against the culture. The culture politics is all downstream from the culture, is what Andrew Breitbart said, and I fully agree with him.
Amen.
We can fight politics. I mean, it doesn't matter who sits in the White House at this point. No matter who wins the White House at this point, or even the Senate or the House, the battle still rages on. Our culture is crap, and a lot of it is because the church sat on its hands. It doesn't matter. Pick a church. It doesn't matter. The church.
This is apart from the political situation. This is apart from the current situation with the election. Our culture has been heading downhill for a long time. And it's just kicked into overdrive in the last, let's just say, roughly 8 years. That has really kicked into overdrive, and it's like, stepped on the gas even more in the last couple of years. And like I said, it's not going to get fixed by Donald Trump. It's not going to get fixed by a SCOTUS ruling. It's not going to get fixed by any of that. What those victories do is they buy us time, and that's it. And by God, we kind of wasted the last 4 years because Trump was him winning. I recognized it. This doesn't solve anything, but it buys us time. And let's face it, we sort of wasted it, which is part of why we're where we're at right now.
We did.
We can't waste any more time. We just can't. No. And I think I'm going to leave with this. St. Cardinal Newman, St. John Henry Cardinal Newman, to get the full thing right. He had a thing. Everybody, each soul on this earth, me, you, everybody watching, everybody that will watch this, all has a purpose. We all have some divinely ordained task that only we can do.
Exactly.
You have got to spend the time in prayer to figure out what that is and go out and do it.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're afraid. I don't care if I'm afraid. And we need to hold each other accountable on this. Because we will be afraid. Don't kid yourself.
Right.
Don't kid yourself. Directions that this could go, I promise you, you will be afraid. If not, you are lying to yourself. But we've got to be willing to push through, because by golly, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but it is time to remember that the early Christians faced getting sent to the lions for the crime of not burning incense for the emperor.
Exactly.
We have to remember that during World War II in Germany, I just talked to a friend to a friend of mine the other day. Her great-grandfather was sent to a concentration camp because he insisted on going to mass. He was unwilling to give up his faith. He was willing to give up his freedom for the sake of his faith. He was willing to give up his life for the sake of it. There are millions in China that face that right now as we speak.
Exactly.
And we continue to face it. That situation has arisen even in this country. A lot of people don't remember this, but the Columbine shooters, and obviously this is not government oppression, I'm not saying that, but the Columbine shooters, they were asking people if they were Christians, if they really believed.
Right.
And if they said yes, they were shooting them.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Yeah.
There's actually a book about one of the girls who got shot. She said yes. If you can find it, go out and read it or listen to it, whatever. It's pretty darn powerful.
Yeah, Michael W. Smith wrote a song about it that was just incredibly powerful.
There you go.
Yeah.
So figure out.
Yeah.
Figure out what your role. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe your role is to train and be willing to defend your neighborhood. Should it come to that? Should the Antifa mob come rolling through?
Right.
Maybe your role is just all of our roles is pray, but maybe your specific role is to be a prayer warrior. Maybe your specific role is to make make sandwiches for the people going out and protesting at your state capitol.
Yeah.
Maybe your role is to write. Maybe your role is to be a podcaster. Whatever. Figure it out and do it.
Everybody,
time is of the essence, people.
God has a special talent for everybody. He really does. And like you said, pray about it, seek him, and you will find. He said, knock and the door shall be open for you. So if you trust in the word, if you trust what he says, do it. Go out and pursue it. Don't just sit at home wondering whether God's going to talk to you. Go out and seek him. Talk to him. Hang out with him. He will reveal himself if you let him.
Yes. One way or another. Probably not with angels on high, but maybe.
He uses a still small voice. Now he does come in a thundering voice too, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a still small voice. You'll know it.
Yes,
you will know it, and you're going to see it.
Yep.
So,
and that is a good place to leave this off. So we'll be back next week with another related episode with Jeff Dornick talking about his latest book release, Church and State. So I'm sure that will also be interesting and a little fiery. But as we all know, that's always more fun. So until next time, keep praying and keep